A'udhu billah minash shaitanir rajim. We seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. God willing, we will start another English Quran study session, starting from verse 36 of Surah 16, the B, Al-Nahl. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. We have sent a messenger to every community saying, you shall worship God and avoid idolatry. Subsequently, some were guided by God, while others were committed to straying. Roam the earth and note the consequences for the rejectors. SubhanAllah, you see that, this is the case with every messenger of God when they went to any community on the planet Earth, and we have it in Quran, since it is proven by the mathematical miracle that this is the undisputable word of God. We know that these people who were the messengers of God, and they have been mentioned in the Quran, some of them have been mentioned, some have not been mentioned. They went to each and every community, and this is what they exactly said. They said, you shall worship God and avoid idolatry. Okay? So basically, that's the main purpose and the main goal of the religion submission, and it has been the case since the time of the first prophet, Adam, and then officially from the time of Prophet Abraham, since he was the first messenger of the submission religion, basically. And this is what they all the time said, La ilaha illallah. There is no God except the one God. And do not worship any other God beside the one God, the one true Lord and Master of the universes, But this is, tragically, this is the result of, some people actually were committed to straying and didn't accept it. And it was fortunate for some of them who were guided. But we know from the verses of Quran that the number of the people who were guided were always not very much. So I would appreciate it if you could mute yourselves. No matter how hard you try to guide them, God does not guide the ones he had committed to straying. Thus, no one can help them. So see, this is a rule. We can only give people the message, and whether they accept it or not, it's totally up to God. And here it is mentioned, God does not guide the ones he has committed to straying. So we have, as we have in one of the appendices that the Messenger of the Covenant has mentioned for us, that we have like a stamp on our forehead which says high heaven, low heaven, or hell, So basically, it is already predetermined whether the people will accept or not accept. Okay, so the only thing that we can do, but we don't know whether people are supposed to be guided or not, and we don't even know what is the end result for ourselves, But the only thing which is very important is that now that we are fortunate enough to see this message and believe in it, and by the will of God, we are striving on this path, it is very important to ask God to help us stay on this path, because we don't know the end part of this, because there were many people who came and they were even the contemporary people of the time of the messengers, as we have evidence of the time of the Messenger of the Covenant, Dr. Rashad Khalifa. And we know that many people came, they did a lot of things, but at the end, they did not make it. May God help us not to be among those people who don't make it. And inshallah, we are among the people who will make it at the end. God willing, I will continue with verse 38. Deep in their minds, they swore solemnly by God, God will not resurrect the dead. Absolutely, such is his inviolable promise, but most people do not know. So see, there are people who deeply believe that resurrection is not a fact. Okay, so these people, deep in their minds, in their subconscious, no matter what you do, they won't believe it. And we know that one of the minimum requirements of going to lower heaven is to believe in the resurrection. believe in the hereafter, believe that there is a day of resurrection, an eternal day of resurrection, where people will be summoned, before God, and they have to respond for whatever they have done, good or bad. So these people, deep in their minds, as we have the subtitle here for verse 38, they swore solemnly by God that they don't believe that there is any sort of resurrection. And so they have actually invalidated this idea in their minds. And what has happened is that they're going to be, seeing the retribution of hell. And but we have in the next part of the verse, absolutely such is his inviolable promise, but most people do not know. So absolutely it is going to happen, that there is an eternal day of judgment, and it is going to happen, and there is a hereafter. And if you believe in submission, you have to believe in this. And we have the mathematical proof as well to support this. Subhanallah. Verse 39, he will then point out to everyone all the things they had disputed, and will let those who disbelieve know that they were liars. So you see many people, they are just disputing about different things that they don't even have information about. You see many people, supposedly they were born in Shia families or Sunni families, and if you tell them about Islam, if they're against it, okay, they might have studied some shallow books, and have seen some shallow videos on YouTube of some rejected devils who are talking bad about Islam, and the real Islam, I mean, not about the Sunni or Shia or any other sect for that matter, which are satanic cults basically. But the point is that they are mixing stuff with one another without having enough idea, without having enough information, without having a very firm opinion, and they are disputing the facts. And on the day of resurrection, God will point out to them, all the things that they have disputed, and will let those who disbelieve know that they were liars, that they were lying on this planet Earth. And what a remorse would that be on that day for those people. To resurrect the dead, to have anything done, we simply say to it, be, and it is. Subhanallah. So this is the power of God. This is the immense power of God. We have in Arabic, "Huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir." He's like omnipotent being, who has the capability of, creation. Okay, the only being who has the capability of creation. And when I say being, the thing is that I don't have any other word, but we're talking about God. We are talking about the creator, the beginning. The beginning of everything. And it's simply. It's something for us to understand that God says to it be, and it is. So resurrection is as easy as that. It's like as easy as the creation of Jesus in the womb of Mary by the word of God, which was carried by the angel Gabriel as the angel of revelation, basically, and then it was simply said to it be, and it was. Jesus was born. And the same is with everything else in the world. And on that day, people will be resurrected, and everybody will be accounted for, basically. 41, those who emigrated for the sake of God because they were persecuted, we will surely make it up to them generously in this life. And the recompense of the hereafter is even greater if they only knew. So I personally know one person, one of the brothers, that, he emigrated for the sake of God, for the religion of God, although I don't think that his wife and his child are on this path. I don't think that they are submitters, but he himself, was so, alhamdulillah, so, firm on the path, and he emigrated for the path of God, and he was persecuted and in the country of the origin where he came from. But then the beautiful thing is that the verse says that we will surely make it up to them generously in this life, and the recompense of the hereafter is even greater if they only knew. So not only they are promised a good life here, in this world, but also the hereafter is also going to be a better reward, a greater recompense for them. Subhanallah. So these are, we shouldn't just treat them as sentences. These are laws, Basically, if you emigrate for the sake of God, if in a country that you are persecuted, and you are doing it for the path of God, for the path of striving for your religion and keeping your religion, it is surely is going to be made up to you generously. And then also the hereafter reward, the recompense is going to be greater. Subhanallah. So these are basically laws that we are reading here. This is because they steadfastly persevere and in their Lord they trust. So this is the most important point. This is the message of the Quran, that we have to put our trust in God alone, We did not send before you except men whom we inspired. Ask those who know the scripture if you do not know. So subhanAllah, this is one of the verses in the Quran that we clearly see that the messengers, basically were men. We didn't have any female messenger. We didn't have any of that in the Quran. And we see that here. We did not send before you except men whom we inspire. So even if this you in this sentence goes back to Muhammad or to Dr. Khalifa, either way, both of them were men, okay? And before them, God says that we did not send before you except men whom we inspired. And when we say inspiration, we mean like basically being inspired to be messengers of God, So basically the messengers were men. Ask those who know the scripture if you do not know. So if you check, like, for example, the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, you would also see that that's the case, that the messengers were men, all of them. We provided them with the proofs and the scriptures, and we sent down to you this message to proclaim for the people everything that is sent down to them. Perhaps they will reflect. Did those who scheme evil schemes guarantee that God will not cause the earth to swallow them, or that the retribution will not come to them when they least expect it? Okay, so there are many people who always scheme evil schemes. Right now we have a lot of them. For example, look at the politicians of the world. Look at the people who say that they are worshiping God, and in the name of religion, in the name of God, they are just doing any sort of vice possible, any unimaginable vice possible, any sort of evil scheme. And you see how they are scheming these, evil schemes. And it's very, and the bad thing, the worst thing is that they're fabricating lies and they're attributing it to God. And we don't have anybody more wicked than those people who fabricate lies and attribute them to God. And here we have that. Do they have the guarantee that the earth will not swallow them? So we have one example of, I remember one example of earth swallowing somebody in the Quran, and that was Qarun. Qarun was the slave driver at the time of Moses, basically at the time of the Pharaoh. And he was a slave driver. I think he was a Jew. And then he betrayed them and started, serving Pharaoh. And then he was so rich, but then it didn't help him. The earth swallowed him. So we have an account of it in the Quran as well, that this has happened. It may strike them while they are asleep. They can never escape. So these people who think that they are just like, they have security guards, they have secret service, they have like people protecting them, they think they are just like immortal, and the thing is that they are living to old ages, and when you look at them, you see some of them live to the age of 80, 90, 100, 110. I don't think that would be viable, but even if that is the case, but you see that there are like those people who are very, very old, but they're given enough time and enough materialistic things to prove that they are not going to worship God alone. And eventually they're going to be destroyed. They're going to be annihilated, whether they like it or not, but that's going to come for them. Or it may strike them while they are fearfully expecting it. Your Lord is compassionate, most merciful. One of One of the examples of fearfully expecting it, that comes to my mind is that guy, Ahmad Didat, that he called the messenger of God, Dr. Rashad Khalifa, he called him Kazzab, liar. And interestingly enough, the video is on the net. You can watch it. And then he was speaking English, but like he used this word liar. Instead of liar, he said Kazzab, So he called the messenger of God liar. And what happened to him? He was on the deathbed basically for 10 years, and he couldn't speak, and he couldn't swallow anything. He couldn't swallow food, and he was fed through his stomach, and obviously he was conscious, and he was fearfully expecting, the retribution. So this is the result of the people, the consequence for the people who call the messenger, the true messenger of God, liar, and this is the result for them. Have they not seen all the things created by God? Their shadows surround them right and left in total submission to God and willingly. SubhanAllah, the shadow, it's really interesting, there is another verse in the Quran that says that if we wanted, we would have designed the sun, in a way that the shadow would be still, but the shadow is moving because it is compared to the source of the light. The shadow is moving. If it is like, for example, the noon, the shadow is the shortest. But if it is for example, the beginning of the morning or the end before the sunset, the end of the day before the sunset, the shadow is the tallest, right? And then it's out of our choice to control the shadow. Even the shadow is designed by God and is exactly doing everything that God has put there as the laws of physics. SubhanAllah, they're like these examples are really interesting to think that even the shadow are submitting, in the total submission to God. To God prostrates everything in the heavens and everything on earth, every creature, and so do the angels without the least arrogance. And the thing about the angels is that they are creatures with free will, and logically and truthfully they have chosen to side with God in the feud in the high society, and without the least arrogance. And here it says that without the least arrogance, basically for all the creatures, that they are prostrating to God. Everything in the heavens, and on the earth, they are prostrating to God, and so do the angels. So creatures, basically, they don't have, when we say creatures, for example, flowers, trees, mountains, stars, animals, they don't have the freedom of choice because they have taken the outright submission path, and they are just exactly doing what they are supposed to be doing on this planet Earth. But the angels, they have the freedom of choice, but in the first place, they have absolutely taken the side of God. So they have the freedom of choice, and that's the difference between angels and the creatures. And humans, well, no, we have the freedom of choice, but unfortunately, we didn't choose well. That right now we are here, and on a Saturday morning, we are reading Quran. But fortunately, we are reading the Quran that, inshallah, and God willing, we will be redeemed, at least it's better than the people who are just like out there doing nothing right now with their time. They reverence their Lord high above them, and they do what they are commanded to do. So this is about the angels. They reverence their Lord high above them, and they do what they are commanded to do. God has proclaimed, do not worship two gods. There is only one God. You shall reverence me alone. SubhanAllah. This is absolutely true. There is only one God. Okay. And there are some other verses in the Quran. I couldn't quite find them, but it was like if there were like more than one God, and if like for example, I'm just paraphrasing, if they were like equally powerful, then there would be chaos in the universes. What if, for example, one God would have decided that the gravity of the Earth is 9.8 g, and then another God would have decided that the gravity would be 10.2 g. Then there would be chaos. Nothing would work, right? So that's why there is only one God, and this is why Trinity that Christians basically believe in is absolutely absurd. There's only one God, not three. And they have just even fallicized, made a fallacy that uh, they were basically, three persons in one God. That still, it doesn't make sense to me. I even asked one Christian person to explain it to me, but still I don't get it, how they believe this nonsense that there are three gods. And even I challenged that person. I said that, okay, you believe in the Old Testament, right? Said that yes. Said that, okay, in the Old Testament it is saying that la ilaha illallah. Basically it is saying that there is no God but one God. In Deuteronomy there are several places that it's saying that. Why don't you believe that? I said that Old Testament came before the New Testament. So if you believe in that, how is it that that one preceded the New Testament and you don't believe in that? So, well, he started thinking. But if it is not the will of God, people will not believe or even think about it. To him belongs everything in the heavens and the earth, and therefore the religion shall be devoted absolutely to him alone. Would you worship other than God? Any blessing you enjoy is from God, yet whenever you incur any adversity, you immediately complain to him. So this is a rule. Any blessing that we have, any blessing that we are enjoying is from God, but the miseries that we have, or adversities that happen to us, fall within the dominion of Satan. Either it is, so if we are submitters, right, then it would be either admission test. If you're done with the admission test, then it would be either be blessing in disguise, or it would be basically a pinch, right? We have done something wrong and we get a pinch, right? So we incur the misery on ourselves. But any blessing that we have and we are enjoying is from God. Subhanallah. Yet as soon as he relieves your affliction, some of you revert to idol worship. And I personally admit, and I personally remember that before submission, I asked God several times to relieve adversity for me or affliction for me. But as soon as that affliction was over, I personally reverted back to thinking that, oh, this person did something. Oh, that person did something. Oh, this professor wrote a recommendation letter for me, or this and that. Or I have like very logical mind that has granted me this whatever, this degree or this certification. So this is idol worship basically. And right now in submission, what we should be doing is to try to kill all sorts of idols that we have in our mind, dead or alive, our ego, anything which might possibly be put next to God. We have to get rid of it. And there was a footnote here for 1649. The human body, whether it belongs to a disbeliever, to a believer or a disbeliever, submits to God. The heartbeats, the lungs movement, and peristalsis illustrate this submission. Subhanallah. Yes, absolutely. If you pay attention, like there are many people who are in this world who are very, basically depressed, right? If the heartbeats was at their disposal to decide whether to keep their heart beating or not, most of them would have committed suicide. Like, for example, if there was a switch that they could just push and then the heartbeat would stop, or the lungs movement. But it's not in our hand. There is that innate feature for humanity to survive, and it is not in our hand. And see how the body is working so perfectly fine. The peristalsis, movement of the basically the intestines, the small and the large intestine, and then how the food is gone through this tunnel of miles and miles of intestine to get digested, and then the bad thing and the useless thing is extracted from our body. So it's just absolutely amazing if you think about the human body, but unfortunately many people just take it for granted. God willing, I will continue. Verse 55. Let them disbelieve in what we have given them. Go ahead and enjoy temporarily. You will surely find out, right? So basically, you tell the people the message, right? Whether they believe or not believe. If they believe, they do it to the fortune of their soul. If not, they do it to the detriment of their soul. And we have to give them time. Say, go ahead and enjoy temporarily. They will they will definitely and surely find out. They designate for the idols, they set up out of ignorance a share of the provisions we bestow upon them. By God, you will be held accountable for your innovations. Yes, this I very much vividly remember. Brought up in a Shia family, like we have had a lot of people around us that they designated, for the idols, like for the imams or the saints in Shia, for Hussein, Abul Fazl, I don't know, Ali, Muhammad, many other saints. They put like they started having dinner, and then they started having like something called rose. It was like a dirge, just crying about the death of this imam or that saint, and then they ate the food, and it was like for that purpose of that idol. Why? The end result would have been intercession. So it was the belief for intercession that now I'm spending this much money or this food, and some people went out of their way. They created, like they prepared more food and they gave it to the poor people around the city, and in the name of that imam or that saint, and it was for the sake of that saint. The only thing was that they thought that those dead people are listening to them and they are saying it, and on the day of resurrection they're going to intercede on their behalf. That's why people did it and still are doing it. May God forgive us if we were part of these blasphemous, rituals. And yes, yeah, okay, yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. We were in these things, and by the grace of God, we are guided to this path to know that intercession doesn't exist, and we have to stay away from any sort of idol, God willing. Okay, so 57, bigoted bias against baby girls. They even assign daughters to God, be he glorified, while they prefer for themselves what they like. When one of them gets a baby girl, his face becomes darkened with overwhelming grief. So I think this goes back to, I don't exactly remember what this goes back to, but I think I have a faint idea, but I would appreciate brothers and sisters to help me with this, with the explanation of this verse, that there were some idols at the time of, before the time of Prophet Muhammad, Lat, Al-Uzza, Hubal, they were in the vicinity of Mecca, and they were female gods or something like that, right? Oh, they are okay. So they are angels. Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you, brother Jafar. Okay, so basically they think that these people think that, okay, angels are daughters of God. Oh, I understand. Okay, so may God forgive us, and these people, the same as, like, for example, right now the Christians think that Jesus, Nauzubillah, is son of God. These people at that time thought that the angels are daughters of God. I see, yeah, mashallah. When one of them gets a baby girl, his face becomes darkened with overwhelming grief. Obviously, these people didn't like girls. Still, it is the case even at the time of the Messenger of the Covenant. He mentioned that he had a friend who went to Saudi Arabia and basically saw that they're getting rid of the people are getting rid of their baby girls and they're putting them in the garbage cans. Which is a very basically a very murderous and tyrannical way of dealing with human beings. But these people are, the Arabs basically are the ones who are not going to be guided anymore. Ashamed, he hides from the people because of the bad news given to him. He even ponders, should he keep the baby grudgingly or bury her in dust? See, bury her in the dust. See what a tyrannical, and I don't know what a bad person, bad person, to bury a human being in the dust. Miserable indeed is their judgment. those who do not believe in the hereafter. I mean, it's not even surprising why these people hate women. These Arabs hate women, and they put them in long attires and dresses, and they have created veil for them, and they are trying to cover them up because they are ashamed, and they are tyrannical people. That's what it is, and they only prefer males. And these people don't think that girls and females, if they were not there, those people would not have been in there in the first place. So what do they feel about their mother? Do they want to bury their mother in the dust as well? Because that was the daughter of somebody in the first place. And these people are completely, their judgment is absolutely, and as it says here, miserable indeed is their judgment. Those who do not believe in the hereafter set the worst examples, while to God belongs the most sublime examples. He is the Almighty, the Most Wise. Subhanallah. While to God belongs the most sublime examples. The original sin. If God punished the people for their transgressions, he would have annihilated every creature on earth, but he respited them for a specific predetermined time. Once their interim ends, they cannot delay it by 1 hour nor advance it. Okay, so the original sin, we all know about it. It was the feud in the high society that people were stratified, they were categorized. Okay, so we have 4 categories. One category, angels, they willingly, with freedom of choice, sided with God, with God's absolute authority. The second group, it was basically the animals who, in the second chance which was given to them, repented and took the path of the outright submission. The third group, which were wishy-washy group, was humans, us. And the last group was the jinns, who sided more with Satan, and we have like a representative of that jinn being in our body. And when we die, when we are done with this life, our jinn companion will become a jinn. Right now it's a companion, it's a jinn companion, it's not a jinn yet, but then it will become a jinn and would be freed, basically. So God gave us time, and God is absolutely Almighty, most wise, and he's so compassionate, so merciful, most merciful being, most compassionate being, that he respited us. Suppose that there is like a company. This is just an example. It's an analogy. Na'uzubillah, I don't want to compare God to any person. But suppose that there is a company, okay, and there are some employees. If those employees do something bad, they will be given one time, or if it is very grave, like for example, they do something that cannot be forgiven, they're going to be fired. But suppose that we have done that, and we were truly and absolutely truthfully would have deserved to go to hell and be completely annihilated, right? As the angels suggested. But God, most compassionate, most merciful, said, I know what you do not know. Said to the angels, I know what you do not know. So basically, God gave us one more chance, subhanallah. Because God know that there were some people who might have been swept into the crowd, and that's why he gave the human beings one more chance. And this is the last chance that we have here. And the death, nobody can delay it by 1 hour nor advance it. Nobody can bring it close or delay it. There's no way. And the only being that knows the time of the death of the people or any creature on the surface of the planet Earth is God, and God alone. And there is also a hadith that says that there is ajal musamma, that we have it in the Quran, which is basically the determined death, and that there is one that they have created in their crooked books, in the books of hadith, and they have called it ajal mu'allaq, which is like wishy-washy, suspending type of death that might happen just somehow, and there is a feature of randomness to it, which is absolute lie, and it doesn't exist. And I remember that my father, who is still a Shia, repeated it several times, that there is ajal musamma and there is ajal mu'allaq. And right now I'm challenging him that no, it doesn't exist. What do you mean? It's not in the Quran, and we're not going to accept it. Death is death. Nobody can delay it. Nobody can advance it, and only God knows when we are supposed to die. That's it, right? So end of discussion. Verse 62, they ascribe to God what they dislike for themselves. They utter the lie with their own tongues that they are righteous. Without any doubt, they have incurred hell, for they have rebelled. Verse 63, by God we have sent messengers to communities before you, but the devil adorned their works in their eyes. See, the devil adorned their works in their eyes. Consequently, he is now their Lord, and they have incurred a painful retribution. Right now, it is the case with the communities of the world. Look, the trend is changing, from time to time, and people are basically at one point they are just busy with one thing, and now they're busy with something else. And in different ages, in different era, it's different. And the messenger of God, Dr. Rashad Khalifa, came, gave the message, and he was done with the message. And right now, still, when you tell the people, they don't see it, because the devil has adorned the works in their eyes. They think that what they are doing is the correct way of doing things, and being religious and being a submitter is less than being a human, and we shouldn't be like that, and this and that, and being luxurious, and being high class and stuff like that. So that is the devil adorning the works of the people in their eyes. Consequently, he's now their Lord. So the Lord of those people is going to be devil, and they have incurred a painful retribution, because their time will come to an end, and they will know that this was a lie, that they have been lied to, and the devil was telling them lies all their lives. We have revealed this scripture to you to point out for them what they dispute, and to provide guidance and mercy for the people who believe. See? To point at what they dispute. So stuff which are point of dispute have been already mentioned in the Quran, and everything has been mentioned in the Quran, and there is nothing out of the Quran that we are going to pay attention to. Additional proofs from God. God sends down from the sky water to revive the land after it had died. This should be sufficient proof for people who hear. If somebody, brothers and sisters, if somebody could type for me how much time I have, or how much time has passed, I would very much appreciate it. Thank you so much. I will continue, and I will see the chat, inshallah. So yes, the sky and the water and the rain, subhanallah. Without water, we're going to die. Nothing will survive on the surface of the planet Earth. No liquid can take the place of water, and all the creatures, and the initiation of life was from water. And mashallah, yes. So I have like 4 more minutes. And then basically water is the essence of life, and God has sent down water from the sky to revive the land. And there is a process that the water comes from the sky, and then it gets evaporated, and then it gets clean again, and then the rain, and then we use it, and then it gets evaporated, and the same process. And in the livestock, there is a lesson for you. We provide you with a drink from their bellies, from the midst of digested food and blood. You get pure milk, delicious for the drinker. Subhanallah. Milk, yes, absolutely delicious. Subhanallah. I mean, we are like rebels here. We're like prisoners here in this planet, but God has given us the best thing possible. Subhanallah. It could have just been nothing. It just be here, do the test, and be done. But no, God has given us everything. And from the fruits of date palms and grapes, you produce intoxicants as well as good provisions. This should be sufficient proof for people who understand. See? So people create intoxicants or alcoholic beverages. And we know that in Quran it is mentioned, Rejsun min amal shaitan. It's like, as the Messenger of the Covenant said, that it's even like, we don't have any word for it, but if you want to say, it would mean that it's even more haram than haram, it's just dirty, the intoxicants. It's just really bad. But then people are just, making them, instead of eating the fruits, they're making intoxicants out of them. The bee, and your Lord inspired the bee, build homes in mountains and trees, and in the hives they build for you. So if you want to talk about the bees and the process of creation of honey, we can talk for hours. And subhanallah, even the language of the bees, how they are just like talking about finding the flowers, getting the nectar, and then creating basically delicious honey, subhanallah, and different types of it. Then eat from all the fruits following the design of your Lord precisely. From their bellies comes a drink of different colors, wherein there is healing for the people. This should be sufficient proof for people who reflect. And we have the footnote. Besides its recognized nutritive value, honey has been scientifically proven as a healing medicine for certain allergies and other ailments. So we have the best of the best, and God has given us everything in the nature to nurture us, to make us, be healthy and happy. And subhanallah, we can only say subhanallah. And with this, brothers and sisters, God willing, I will end what I was saying here, and inshallah, we will have questions and comments. MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. Thank you, brother.
MashaAllah.
Thank you, brother.
MashaAllah. God bless you.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah, brother. I had one comment.
Yeah,
brother, it was about the thing that you said where God says, about Jesus, he only needs to say be and it is, right? So there is a voice recording of Dr. Rashad where he explains this partially. And he says, of course, that is how it goes. God says be and it is. But Jibril went to Mary, he talked to her, this was a whole process. So there is a system that God has when he wants to do something, when he wants something to happen. He says be and it is, but we shouldn't forget that there's always a system behind it. So things need to happen for that what God planned to do is indeed going to happen.
Yes, mashallah. Yes, yes.
Yes, mashallah.
Yeah, go ahead, Shima.
Yeah, I wanted to say that even in the authorized translation, Prophet Jesus is called a word from us, and that word is a capital W. And the messenger explained that word that was carried by Angel Gabriel was the word to be. So there is a system. Yes, if God wills, Prophet Jesus was created like immediately, but there is a system, and that system was that Gabriel brought the word to Mary, and that word was to be. And subhanallah. Sorry, Masoud, I cut you off.
No, I just wanted to say that. So this is what you said. The angel said, "Oh Mary, God gives you good news, a word, and it is with capital W." What Shima said, from him, so from God, basically, whose name is the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary. He will be prominent in this life and in the hereafter, and one of the closest to me. So wherever we have like this capital letter, we have to pay attention to it. So this is like when we have capital letter for M, basically that's God. And when we have the capital letter, capital H for him, it is still God. And this is the interesting. I didn't know it, but when we have the capital W, it was interesting that I paid attention to it. That it's a word from God. It's like the word, and it was the word for Messiah. Basically, which was, and when I agree with Brother Jafar. So when we are talking. Exactly, because it is from God. Exactly, because it is the word of God. And yes, exactly, I agree that there is a process for everything, and this is how God created this system. If he willed, he would have designed it in a different way, and exactly describing everything. We are not like capable of exactly describing everything. May God forgive us if we sometimes make mistakes in describing, or even in our studies when we are talking about things. But I absolutely agree with you, that there is a process, mashallah.
Oh yeah, brother, but you didn't make a mistake. Like you didn't say anything different than that. But I just wanted to remind that because there's a specific voice
Yeah,
recording
mashallah.
where the messenger is talking about this topic, so it gives a little bit more of a clear understanding of what that really means. Because a lot of people, they think that when God says "be" and it is, it's like it happens like just that, but it is not like that. And there's also this one thing where the messenger also speaks about. He says that if I can say it correctly, like the physical being of God is not here. He is not. He is controlling everything remotely, So this is so we need to understand these things in a correct way. That's the whole
Yes, mashallah.
thing, actually.
Mashallah. Mashallah.
Yes, mashallah, everything is being carried out here by angels, by God's will, but through the angels. So they are serving God by doing His orders. Yes, mashallah.
I see there's a comment by Brother Madani. He wants to go over verse 67 again.
Yes, inshallah. Just give me one moment. Okay, so, and from fruits of date palms and grapes you produce intoxicants, as well as good provisions. So basically, in this part, it's the idea that people are creating alcoholic beverages from date palms or from grapes. They are creating wine, and so there are different types of wine, and these people are creating intoxicants, and uh, basically the verse is also saying that as well as good provisions. So good provisions meaning that the fruits themselves, like we can eat date palms, not date palms, we can eat the date from the date palms basically, and we can eat the grapes, and they're absolutely fine. But the point, and it says that it is the good provision, but here it says that people produce, you produce intoxicants. I mean, the disbelievers, basically the people who don't believe in Quran, they make intoxicant, and they make alcoholic beverages. And so it's like two things, it's a good thing which is given to us, date or grapes, right? And then people can choose to make alcoholic beverages out of them, or eat them as good provisions. That's at least my understanding.
Yeah, brother Mash, I want
Yeah.
to add something, brother. We were just like a few weeks ago also going through this in the Turkish Quran study, and we should mention that this verse, the name is the bee. So the thing is that, and in the same verse, you can see God says this should be sufficient proof for people who understand. So when you look in the whole surah, God is talking about all these provisions, the animals. Like even in 66, He says that we provide you with drink from their bellies, from the midst of the digestive fruit, etc. So God is telling us that these things are proofs for us. And of course, people make intoxications like you said
Yes,
it, but that's
yes.
a bad thing. So one part is indeed to understand that God gives good things, and then people do bad things with it, of course, and also good provisions.
Yes.
And that part with the proof is like within the whole verse. God is telling us about the animals, about all the things that He has given, so we can think about it.
Yes.
I think also another aspect of this verse about intoxicants is also that I mean, it's not just necessarily referring to the disbelievers. For example, submitters could have, let's say, a manufacturing plant, and it could have alcohol. For example, like someone could be making like medical equipment, right? And it has to be sanitized and disinfected and everything. So there is obviously alcohol used in that. So I mean, it's not just in the case of, I mean. Alcohol is an intoxicant, but at the same time, intoxicant doesn't necessarily have to imply as alcoholic beverages, because it says you produce, so it's not necessarily talking about disbelievers. It's like I would say it's like a more broad version of it.
But if a person
But
is
the word
there,
is clear. No,
yeah,
but there is a clear word there, intoxicants, and
yeah,
intoxicants are prohibited
yes,
Yeah,
in
but I
Islam.
mean,
So
it's another way of referring to alcohol, right? even
Well, no,
anesthetic as an
As a
anesthetic.
drink.
no.
But I think this is as a drink.
Yes, this is a
Okay,
drink.
but it doesn't.
I don't think it's
Okay,
alcohol, brother.
no. So, okay, so right. Okay.
Maybe,
Well, that's one way of
maybe
looking at
well
it.
as good provisions. Maybe in that sentence we can say, okay, here, because yeah.
I mean,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, what you're saying is correct, but also, but I mean, in the broader sense, like, I don't know how alcohol as an anesthetic or alcohol as a disinfectant would be mentioned here separately, right? I'm saying like it includes both, you know.
So it's a good provision if you
It
use it
could.
for cleaning.
Yes,
No, I'm
but
not
you
saying
don't.
it's a provision at all. I mean, it is a
No.
provision, but yeah, when it's talking about good provisions, that's separate. And then on the other side, intoxicant itself, I mean, there's so many chemicals that are intoxicants. We know that, right? But I'm just saying that could also include other um, uh, applications of alcohol. Like for example, because the reason I'm saying this, only reason I'm saying this is because we're saying this is talking about the disbelievers, right? And I'm saying this doesn't have to necessarily be talking to disbelievers, because the believers also could have a manufacturing facility where they could be producing, let's say, rubbing alcohol, right, for wounds and stuff. So that isn't that thing is an intoxicant. It's alcohol because it is by definition intoxicants, but you're not consuming it orally. You're just using it for wounds, for example, or to
Can you
sanitize
drink?
medical
Can you drink
equipment and
that?
stuff, right?
Can you drink that pure alcohol? Is that drinkable? Like the alcohol? Like I also went to I studied laboratory, so there we had this thing, and it was like pure alcohol. But I don't think that's something you can drink.
Well,
Like
what are we
it's
talking
really,
about
I
drinking
don't
it?
know. I'm
I'm
not
not
sure.
saying we should drink it.
I don't know if it's possible because it's like very strong, you know. So
Uh-huh.
I think
Inshallah, I believe there is
We
a
can
there is
talk.
a
We can talk about it
um,
in another session.
okay.
I think Brother
Yeah.
Justin has his hand up for quite some time. Brother Justin, you
Oh
wanted
yeah.
to say something?
Yeah, can I just say one thing though?
Yeah,
Is
go ahead.
let's not use the hands. And I think I've said it before. If you have a comment, just wait till the other person's finished. If you have a comment, just say, because if let's say if 10 people have their hands up, it's hard to track hands,
Yes.
and it doesn't like. So let's just, if you have a comment, when you get an opportunity, just put in your comment, God willing. Don't wait for your name to be called, like we're not in a class,
Yeah. But Justin, you need to be fast, brother. You should just go
You have to
ahead.
jump in, brother. You have to jump in.
Jump in.
Okay, fair enough. God willing, I'll be a little bit more
Mardani,
aggressive with it.
yeah, and Mardani added something to his question, that someone who is a disbeliever, he said, look, God is not talking bad about alcohol here. So, and then he says, I could not answer him at that moment. So that's why he was asking specifically about this verse. Like someone said, you see, God is not talking bad about
No, actually,
intoxicants.
yeah, but then the thing is that we have the word exactly intoxicant in another part of the Quran, and then
Yeah, I agree, brother.
yes, so intoxicant, when we say intoxicant, it's something bad. By nature, it means that something that is going to bring you out of the logical way and the normal way that you are functioning. Okay? So basically that's what it means. And I don't think this is talking about for example, industrial making of alcohol for anesthetics and stuff like that. I agree with what Brother Suleiman is saying, that it might be the case that there is a person that who has like a plant for or laboratory or something for doing that. But I don't think that the process of making anesthetics and stuff is through date palms and grapes. I don't think that's the case. We can ask ChatGPT later and see how the process is this. But this is, I think, it's made very clear cut in the sense of saying that, okay, we have date and we have grapes, and there are good provisions, and people go about creating intoxicants out of them. So it's like a clear cut or categorically saying the good provision, which is the date and grapes, and the bad production, which is the intoxicant, which is a bad thing. So I think that's my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. So, so based on what Brother Madani said, this is exactly why I add that part, also is because people could also then use this verse to justify intoxicants, which is obviously wrong. But then also when it's talking, say you produce, then this is talking to you, a person who's reading the Quran. Is not necessarily talking to disbelievers, right? But then what we said about the industries, you're probably right. I mean, in an industrial scale, maybe they use different ways to produce alcohol. But I mean, I'm just saying there's more ways to look at a verse than just one, specific interpretation. Okay, yes, people will use it to produce whiskey and wine and all this stuff, but intoxicants is not just whiskey and wine, right? Alcohol itself, even rubbing alcohol, I can say, is it an intoxicant? Yes. Like, can I add it into, let's say, my foods, for example?
No.
No. Why? Because it's an intoxicant, right?
Yes.
So by that definition, it still applies. That's just my point,
I've seen this allegory. I think all three verses are kind of intertwined because God first references the fact that, a desolate land, it's all dead, and he revives it, right? And it's a proof of God's omnipotence, right? And then God says, between the bellies where like all the digested stuff, all the fecal matter, all this fun stuff, and then blood, he brings out something pure. He brings milk. And then it says afterwards, and then when God gives you something that's pure, like a fruit, some of you may produce intoxicants, which distorts the natural beauty of it, or B, you use it as a good provision. So God is pure, and then it is us who has the choice of either A, taking what God has given us, or B, distorting it to something gross. That's the allegory I see, but I could be wrong.
That's actually my understanding of it as well, because at the end of it, it says that this should be sufficient proof for people who understand, that we have the choice, we have the freedom of choice, whether we go about creating intoxicant out of the date palms and, grapes, which is a bad thing, or we use it for good provision. That's our choice, right? That's also the choice that we have with being in the kingdom of God or not being in the kingdom of God, being in the dominion of Satan. We only have two choices, right?
You could even elaborate further and say anything that is given to man, we have the choice to either distort it and make it something gross, or B, to take it as God has provided it, right? Yeah. And that is the submission. Submission is saying, okay, God has given this to me, mashallah, right? Or B, I need something more. I need to make it something different. Those distortions always make it into something ugly and gross, right?
Which is, yes.
And also, the other thing is that, people make intoxicants and good provisions, right? So let's say, you live in one of those areas, let's say in some country area you live, right? Let's say, right? And let's say like some rural neighborhood where there is no markets around and stuff, and somebody gets a wound or something, so they would apply one of these things that is homemade, probably, and that's fine. I mean, we know that if you have a wound or something, you apply it to that degree. You're not using it for any bad purposes, right? So in that case, it's also, that thing is also a blessing, right? So it's not necessarily in the wrong context. It's not necessarily like we don't. I mean, yes, people make bad provisions with it, but again, it just comes down to the same thing, that it's not necessarily bad. Like, yes, I mean, God has allowed, the production of alcohol for anesthesia, for example, right? Imagine if any of you had ever had to go through some kind of a procedure or some kind of a really bad wound, as a child, and imagine if there was no such thing as an anesthetic, right?
Yeah. But
that would be very hurtful,
brother. That's not an intoxicant.
So in that case, can I finish?
Yes, go ahead.
And then you can comment, God willing. So I think in that case, that would be a blessing, right? I mean, I really would. I mean, I as a person, when I'm going through such a painful time, would really appreciate that and recognize that as a blessing from God. Not saying that drinking alcohol is a blessing, just to be very, very clear. But what I'm talking about is strictly in that context, So just looking at it from that angle, I think that when God is saying that you produce intoxicants and thing like I don't necessarily look at it from that angle. Yes, people use it. I mean, the same is true for so many other things that God has created, and it's not just obviously wine and thing, right? There's all other kinds of chemicals that will have very intoxicating reactions, but then there's several other chemicals that you would find in those same fruits or vegetables or plants that could be used for so many other different reasons, that we don't even know. So,
MashaAllah, yes. But again, I think personally that it says intoxicants as opposed to good provision, in this sense that people drink it and eat it. And as you mentioned, alcohol in the sense of like used as a anesthetic is absolutely fine, correct, yes, but that's not something that people would normally and naturally drink, right? Because it's something which is like a sort of a disinfectant. It's not something that people could drink and becomes an intoxicant, because that's going to be absolutely what do we call it? It's going to poison you. It's not going to be intoxicant. It's going to poison you and it's going to kill you. But intoxicant is something, it doesn't poison you. It simply gives you a form of intoxication and good feeling for a short period of time, like cocaine and stuff, right? But then after that, people come back to their normal life. But then if they go after it, it's going to be like bad again. But the thing is that I think it's just putting two things right in front of each other. Date palm and like date and grapes, that you can make wine out of it, which is a bad thing, which is an intoxicant, and a good provision, which is the grape itself, the date itself as a fruit. That's, yeah.
Well, it says produce, right? So it could be like you can make date cakes, right? You can make jams, you can make jellies, right? You can make beautiful things out of the thing that's given to you. Or alternatively, you can let it be something that, obviously is not good for us, right? Like a cover.
Yeah.
Right? So there's that contrast, right?
Yeah. Also, I think one disconnect I see here is when we see the word intoxicant, that doesn't like automatically imply that it has to be taken orally or any other way. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the thing is an intoxicant in its properties, but that's not to say that it has to be taken and eaten or you have to drink it in some way. I don't know why we keep coming back to the part that if you drink it, right? Just because the term is intoxicant in itself doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be like intoxicating and you have to drink it.
Yeah, intoxicant describes the result, the effect.
Yeah, exactly.
It does not it does not describe the means.
What you do with it, yeah.
MashaAllah.
If I'm not mistaken, the Arabic word for the intoxicant is kalam, or like it means cover. So something to cover like something that changes, right?
Yes, to cover.
So it's not saying you're drinking or anything or eating anything. It says you're covered. Exactly. You're not the same.
Yeah, the messenger says exactly the same thing. Actually, it's about covering like your mental thing. If it messes up with that, that's not okay, because like at the moment people can produce like very new things, and make things from different kind of fruits or something like that, and it doesn't have to be alcohol either. It can be some other chemical. If it messes up with your head, that should be counted as an intoxicant, like, and it would be prohibited.
So I think it's safe to say that intoxicant, when it's referred to in the Quran as haram, it is the effect, not the means. So if you were to use alcohol for cleaning purposes or whatsoever, it is not an intoxicant. However, as soon as you ingest it and you get the effect, then you get that cover. Because you can't cover a knife or clothing or whatever you're using alcohol to clean with, right? But as soon as it's affecting you, that is the cover itself. Am I incorrect on that, brothers?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, that's
like
exactly.
Trump said, you inject the disinfectant into the lungs to fight COVID. you don't. That doesn't necessarily mean like you have to inject it into your body. It can be used as a disinfectant. You can use it as a cleaning thing, to sanitize things anywhere. So and yeah, like also what you said about the other plants, like there's all kinds of mushrooms, right? Also, that it doesn't have to be anything that people drink, right? So people when they read the Quran, like they say it's just alcohol, and then they think that other intoxicants are fine. But yeah, intoxicants is anything that alters your mind. Is an intoxicant, mind altering chemicals that cover up your judgment, basically. Like you could have chemicals that do other things into your brain, for example, like there's all functions in your body, like produce, I don't know, other hormones or something, right? That everything goes to the brain, but we're talking about things that will actually affect your mental judgment immediately, like your ability to affect your motor skills, like driving and stuff like that, or to think clearly, and things like that. Yeah.
And using wine as a cleaning product is going to be expensive, so don't do that.
Don't be an idiot.
So yeah, it's not haram to use it.
Well, if you're gonna put wine, obviously you're gonna just dirty the thing more.
Yeah.
So following what Brother Justin, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So following what Brother Justin said, I just had a look actually. When the Arabic, when he said is kamar for the intoxicants, the word actually used here is different. It's sakara, sakar. And then when I look it up on the Arabic dictionary, different things come up, and one of them is be drunk, be intoxicated. So I don't know if anybody knows Arabic, that would probably help. I don't know, in case. But the point is that the word used here is not khamar, like the intoxicants as the other verses referred to, that covers your mind.
That's beautiful context. Thank you, Sister Mona. So I think, is it safe to say that with those three previous verses, 65, 66, and 67, also with the following verses of 68 and 69, it's showing how God creates beautiful things. It is us who has the choice to either take that provision and make it ugly. And then alternatively, it also shows that God can make a variety of things out of the same ingredients. Does that make sense? Am I incorrect on that? Like, it's kind of showing the contrast of how God is omnipotent. He knows everything. He knows what's right, and everything he does is pure. Whereas it is our fault and it is our arrogance that brings, I don't know, haram, like the intoxicants.
So,
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, there is this other verse. Sorry, brother. There is this other verse where God says, "They ask you about intoxications and gambling." And then the verse goes on. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And God says there are good things and
benefits.
bad things, but the benefits,
there are benefits.
And
But you should go away from
far
it.
outweigh the
Yeah, so that
benefits.
doesn't mean, yeah, so when God says this, this doesn't mean, okay, so there are benefits in alcohol, you know, so we should consume that. So it's not in that purpose. I don't know if you can open that verse maybe, in the verse in chapter, which God says
Which
that.
verse is it, brother?
I don't know.
Just give me one word so that inshallah I can search it.
So they
Outweighs-
ask you
outweighs
they
the
ask you about
benefits.
intoxications and
It's
gambling.
verse 443. I was just looking at it. Sorry, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm just joining in for the first time. Very interesting
alaikum.
conversation surrounding this. I think we should, remain objective. God, alhamdulillah, gave us a reasoning, right? So if it feels wrong, most likely it is wrong, right? In my personal opinion. But I like the conversation surrounding it. But it is verse 4 and then 43.
So what do you mean?
Assalamu alaikum, by the way.
Yeah, what do you mean by if it feels wrong, then it is wrong? Because
Well, I
sometimes
mean,
we can
what I
feel
what I
things
mean to
is
say is that, like, we tend to get like caught up in the exact nature of the words and where it's coming from. Quite clearly, in the context we were reading it in, it was referring to intoxication by the production of something that intoxicates you, right? But then it kind of went somewhere else with the conversation of the actual word intoxicant and what it could imply as maybe being other things as well, right? But that's what I was trying to say is that
okay, okay.
yeah.
So you feel it's wrong to talk about that?
No, I don't think it's wrong to talk about that. I think it's a great debate. It's good. It
No, I
just
mean it's not a debate,
enhances your
as in
knowledge, right?
terms of like no, we're just. I think maybe it may come off to you as something else, but for us, it's just really trying to get different perspectives.
Of course.
And yes,
Yeah.
and I think also my objective, just to give that input, was also that alcohol is not described, for example, alcohol or any anesthetic for that reason is not described in any other terms in the Quran. I mean, God has created many blessings for us in this world, and so alcohol is just mentioned as an intoxicant, and that's fine. But we have to know that there's many applications, and all of them are not necessarily bad. So the good parts of alcohol that we know in this world, there's several applications. They're not all bad. So because we were talking about disbelievers creating intoxicants, and disbelieve but the verse is definitely saying you produce intoxicants, so it doesn't it's not necessarily just talking about disbelievers. That was the whole point of it, and also to say that just even if we look at alcohol itself, right? And I'm not talking about the fruits
Right.
that we have good provisions and bad provisions. Let's just even talking about alcohol itself as an anesthetic in itself, like it is a blessing in certain circumstances, but in other circumstances, people can use it to abuse it to so many bad things, right? So yes, there's things that God has. It comes back to the same thing. There's things that God has given us that we can use to hurt us, or benefit us. And this is one of those things, definitely. It cannot be used in any way to justify the use of alcohol or any other drugs in any shape or form.
Mashallah, Brother Suleiman. Can I add something?
Yes.
I believe
Yes.
God is, helping us here, mashallah. You see that the verse that she just referred to, like 443, also Sister Mola noticed that in the Arabic there's the same word, sukra, if I'm not wrong. So it says that contact, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. O you who believe, do not observe the contact prayer salat while intoxicated. So we see the same word in Arabic here and in that verse that Masoud read today, meaning that it's something that affects our mind. And it's just in that I understand that there are good things in using alcohol for other than intoxication, but that verse that we covered today, given 443 and the Arabic context, are the same thing.
Yeah, so in any case, we should notice that, God is like I don't know if we also can open to 219, where God uses the word khamr to 219. So there, God specifically says, they're asking you about the khamr and, of course, the gambling. In both of them, there are benefits, and he says, like, the benefits are less than, the things. The bad things that it brings with it. But we should notice that, in the Quran, it's very clear that intoxications are prohibited. So when you look within this perspective, and when God is saying these kind of things to us, we should clearly mention that all kinds of intoxications are prohibited.
MashaAllah, brother. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this
we
one.
don't disagree about that.
Yeah, I think this part that it says, yes, alunaka an al khamar, so they ask you about intoxicants. This is what we have been talking about, like the broad sense of anything that could create like a sort of covering on your mind, including drugs, right? In this sense that we're not allowed to have any sort of things, including like the things that we have previously discussed, like, for example, some drugs which could potentially some doctors, give us, and we should stay away from it if it is like going to create a sort of covering on our logic and our brain, like, for example, dangerous drugs like Xanax and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, brother. Even like how I understand this is, even if these intoxications, even if they have benefits, even you drink it and you have some kind of a benefit, even then, because the verse then says, but their sinfulness far outweighs their benefit. So even if they have, let's say they have benefits, and even if they have, the sinfulness far outweighs it. So that's why it's prohibited.
Yes, exactly.
So when God talks about, and that was the question of Brother Mardani, is that someone asked him about this, and he said, look, God is not talking badly about alcohol or intoxications. But when you bring all the verses together, that deal with this topic, you can clearly see it is possible that these chemicals or the things that people make, they can benefit you. Even drinking, even if you drink it, maybe they have some benefits for your blood, if you drink some wine, but it's clear that the sinfulness far outweighs the benefits, and this is clearly a verse in the Quran.
Yes.
Sorry, brother, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Let me just say, let me just add something quick. Okay, we have at the footnote, the world now recognizes the economic benefits from manufacturing alcoholic beverages and illicit drugs, right? So basically, that's what also the Dr. Rashad Khalifa also mentioned here as the footnote: alcoholic beverages and illicit drugs. So basically, it is covering both senses of khamara, something that covers your mind, be it alcoholic beverage or be it illicit drugs in any way. And we have yes, let me just go to the appendix. Which appendix was that? If we can read here, 35, mashallah. Okay, so drugs and alcohol. There is no compromise whatsoever regarding illicit drugs and alcoholic beverages. No compromise, right? They are called abominations and work of Satan, right? 590, 219 that Brother Jaffa mentioned, and 590, which was mentioned again. We see that intoxicants, gambling, the idols, altars, and game of chance are strictly prohibited. The word used for intoxicant is khamar, that we saw that in 219, from the root word khamara, which means to cover. Thus, anything that covers or hinders the mind is prohibited. This includes anything that alters the mind, such as marijuana, heroin, cocaine, alcohol, hashish, anything that affects the mind, any sort of illicit drug. Yeah. MashaAllah. Brother Justin, sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, I think it's imperative to look at this not as the object anymore, but to look at it as the effect. Because God describes it as the effect. Right? So we shouldn't look at it as alcohol. We shouldn't look at it as marijuana or heroin or anything like that. We should look at it as the effect. The effect is dirty. The effect is haram. The effect of you covering yourself and changing your mind and altering it, that is what is haram. There may be benefit, however, it's taken away. And it's just like the benefit of gambling. There's a benefit if you win, 100%, but the sinfulness far outweighs its benefit, right? So anything that covers, that is what we should consider as the intoxicant. It's not, we should kind of take it out of our mind of, oh, you know, alcohol, this or whatever. It's all things that change our mind. Am I incorrect on this?
So using that kind of products, these are called intoxications, and those things are prohibited. Like, why should we say the effect? Like that product, using it is prohibited.
Because the result is more encompassing than saying, you know,
but brother, sorry, but look, okay. So some people, they can say, okay, I'm drinking wine, but I'm drinking so less, so it doesn't affect my mind. In this specific way, then you can say, okay, then that's not prohibited. If you only say it's the effect, but it's not. The intoxication itself, taking, even if it's like 1 milliliters, it's prohibited.
Yes.
It's not about the effect, because some people, you know, there are people, they drink like 5 bottles of, you know, that, and they don't become drunk. You know, you have that kind of people. So
and then we over time they also you know, get build tolerance. You know, so. Yeah.
Sorry.
So it's not about the fact. It's not like, because, you know, people can use that and say, okay, that means I can drink alcohol as long as I don't get drunk. You know,
which is wrong. Yeah.
It is prohibited. It's prohibited. So it's not just the act of getting drunk that's prohibited. It's drinking itself. The thing itself is prohibited. You know, for us to drink.
Yes.
Not just the part about getting drunk. Right?
Yes.
Sorry, I meant it in the terms of anything that provides that effect.
Right. No, I think I understand.
No, but it's
yes,
but then it's confusing. Sorry, we shouldn't make it confusing. So I'm really sorry. We shouldn't make it confusing. It should be very clear. If you read the Quran, if you read the footnotes, it's extremely clear. You know, intoxications, if you use them, even if it's like 1 drop, it is prohibited. That's it. You know, and so like it should be very simple, in my opinion.
An intoxicant is basically an agent noun. It's not the effect. It's the substance itself, right? When we say intoxicant and when we say intoxicants, it's a noun, okay? And it's a plural noun. Intoxicants, it's a plural noun. You cannot make the effect plural. It's the substance itself. And even the dictionary says that, you know, something such as an alcoholic drink that causes people to become excited or confused and less able to control what they say or do. And then what we had here also is we have a broader term and broader understanding and meaning for it as alcoholic beverages and illicit drugs, basically. So, and we had it in the appendix 35. So it's not the effect. Intoxicants, it's the substance itself.
Yeah, also selling them, or like in my case, we had this discussion, if you guys remember, about the store being rebuilt and they were selling their intoxications, and I was asking, is it okay for me to do the renovation of that project? And we had a discussion. So we shouldn't also you know, include ourselves in, even if it's like a small part of that thing going on with intoxications. So it's not only the effect that you get from it, but also not going, selling it, or, you know, being around it in any ways, I think.
Yes, there was this interesting, see how Satan is working his way around these things on the TV. There was one like this drama series I was watching. Okay, there was one guy who was supposedly a Muslim, but most probably like Sunni Muslim. And then there was a guy, American guy, talking to him and said that, bring me, like he had a restaurant, that Muslim guy had a restaurant. And he was serving food. And there was an American guy who came in and said that, bring me some like bacon. And the guy went and brought some bacon for him to eat for breakfast. I said that the American guy said that, I thought you guys don't eat pork. And the so-called Muslim person said that God in the Quran says that we shouldn't eat it. Didn't say that we shouldn't sell it. So see, this is how Satan is working his way around these things, you know. So basically, any logical mind would know that when we are not allowed to eat it, right? When we are prohibited to eat it, so anything that has to do with that is also categorically prohibited, such as having a farm with pigs, like, for example, raising pigs, and then selling their pig meat, right? So I think categorically it's also prohibited, as Brother Jaffa said. Like, for example, somebody has like a bar and you go and renovate it. So you're helping that system. So you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's hypocritical if people do that. Yeah,
Yes.
like you believe that some God prohibited something, and you have, we know that everyone has a chance to refine themselves, to the agents of giving good news and giving this understanding, the Quran, this light to people. And if you put something that is prohibited here out there for people to try, it's very hypocritical. We know that, some people might argue that, they are not Muslims or they're not submitters, but that doesn't justify people doing something against the Quran while they call themselves submitters.
Yeah, I want to maybe go to another topic. It's about if the messengers and the prophets, they're all men and not women, right? So we don't have women prophets or messengers. Can we maybe talk about this topic as well? I don't know if it's out of topic, but
no, it's on the topic, brother. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, mashallah.
Yeah, so why? So the thing is, why God didn't choose prophets and messengers from out of women as well? My own opinion is like that. It's very dangerous for women. Even men they have killed. Men prophets and messengers they have killed. So when they are if it would be a woman, then it would be like more difficult and more dangerous for the person.
God says that women and men have different benefits, and we shouldn't be jealous of each other. I think anything past that is speculation.
Yeah, mashallah, but that wouldn't. I believe some people would argue that okay, if God willed, He could protect a female prophet too, as He does with His male prophets and with all His prophets that have been male and prophets and messengers. So I don't think that's a very strong argument against the disbelievers. Maybe we could just say it's God's wisdom and God knows who to choose and who is fit. And we know that, for instance, God said to Moses that I made you for myself. So God knows that a certain soul who was not a male or a female in the first place is going to.
Shima, we can't hear you.
I think we ran into some kind of technical issue. Anyways.
Sister Mona brings up a good point, it's one of those things where, God is not to be questioned. It is us who is to be questioned, right? There's men and women. We all know there's benefits to each. God has made it explicitly clear that there are only men who have wives and children. And obviously God has a plan. There's always a plan for everything. So you just take it for what it is, right?
Yes, so the point also here is that it doesn't mean that because there are no men prophets or female messengers or prophets that women are less important. It's definitely not that, because like we have the Surah Nisa, like woman, and you have Mary, that God has chosen. So the whole idea behind this is that because God didn't chose female messengers or prophets, it doesn't mean that they are less important. So one of the discussions was about that. And of course, they also
is that
like
the context of the question?
Yeah, that was a little bit the context. And of course, Mary, she gets also like Jibril came to her, right? The Gabriel came to her and talked to her as well. And a lot of people, they confuse that when Gabriel comes, they say, okay, Gabriel came, so she got a message from God, so that means she's also a messenger. She was a messenger. Or the wife of Pharaoh, for example, mother of Moses. So that's sometimes confusing, but we should understand that messengership and prophethood is like, it's an assignment that God gives. So when you receive a message from God, it doesn't make you a messenger or a prophet. When you are assigned as a messenger or as a prophet, that makes you a messenger or a prophet.
Inspiration could come to any person, right? But doesn't necessarily having the inspiration, for example, for mother of Moses, would make her a messenger or prophet, right? Because we see in the Quran that bees are also inspired, right? So does it mean that bees are messengers or prophets? So that's a more like sounds like more like of a fallacy to me. That I don't know where does it come from, but the point is that the Quran categorically says that the messengers and the prophets were all male, but humans can be inspired. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you're inspired, you are a messenger of God. Doesn't mean anything like that.
I think if anybody were to even bring this question up logically, right? Out of the billions and billions of people that have ever existed on this earth and existing now, less than a handful have been prophets or messengers. So if anybody is bringing up this question logically, I think it's more of a question based off of ego. Because why does it matter? None of us are messengers or prophets, God willing. Unless there's something I don't know. But and there's billions of people who exist right now who aren't. So anybody who these people, these men who've existed through history, are so few and far between, and exactly chosen by God, right? Like if you were to question why isn't it women, well, you have your priorities wrong, I think.
Yeah, but the messenger also talks about it, so we can't say we can't say we can't talk about it or we can't ask that kind of questions.
Sorry, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if anybody says, "Oh, why women can't be?" Well, God explicitly tells you why. Tells you can't, right? But if somebody questions the logic of that, I think you have to question that person's logic. That's what I'm saying.
It kind of reminds me of that discussion that happened between Adib and Rashad at some point, where Adib was accusing Rashad of saying that something that he said that you said that God can't produce hydrogen or something like relating to hydrogen.
Yes,
and he said it's not that he can't, it's just he has a system, and everything works according to the system. He could create a different system if he wanted, but that's the system he chose. So could God send a female messenger? He could, but it's his system that he doesn't. That's how he has designed women, and that's how he designed the world, and that's the system he chose to use. I mean, there had to be a system, right? I mean, so that's the system. I mean, there could be multiple systems too if God wanted, but that's how he decided to do it. And like Mona said, I mean, you can't question God, but he can do anything if he wanted to. But just because he chooses a certain way doesn't mean that it couldn't be possible for God to do it the other way around.
Yeah, we're not going to be like the Jews who said God's hand is held, right? And then God says it's theirs who's held. God has the ability to do anything. But you're right. God has a plan and everything's specific for a reason. Only God knows. Like I showed that thing on the Quran study with the bee and the electrical pulses and the negative ions. Like You wouldn't even possibly see the reason for that earlier on. But God makes everything specifically work together in harmony for a reason. So, you know, I think you're right on that, 100%.
Mashallah, I also wanted to comment on verse 57 to 59 that we covered today. And it's actually about how there's bias towards baby girls. And, you know, these days, people might not kill their girls, their baby girls, but there's always, you know, not always, I'm not saying always, but you see that majority of them prefer baby boys still, unfortunately. Even in a modern country, you still see that. And among certain groups with certain, you know, understanding of the world. And they prefer, like, they try so many times to have a boy at the end. You know, they have like so many girls, you know, trying. And we know that God is the one who gives them children, so they were meant to have like 5 girls and finally a boy, but you know the intention is to have a boy, you know, to prove something, you know. And they might be neglecting their daughters, and they might, you know, deprive them of like good education and things they need, focusing on having a boy and then giving everything to the boy, like focusing on the boy. And this is discrimination. You know, this is, you're not killing a baby girl, but depriving that baby girl of certain, you know, certain things in this world. And we know that everything is meant by God and everything is already predetermined. But, you know, as parents, people need to, you know, reconsider how they're viewing their children, how they're looking at their children. We know that submitters are reverent to God and they don't do that. But, you know, for those who are listening to us and they are not submitters, they might, get a chance to reconsider, inshallah, and, you know, to appreciate what God has given them, because nobody knows if the baby boy is going to be a good son or the baby girl is going to be a good daughter. You know, we nobody knows. And you know, whatever we have, if we appreciate it, inshallah, it's going to turn out to be great, because a child deserves a good life regardless of their gender, inshallah. And also you see that, covering up women and putting that scarf on their head and killing them, but because of not wearing the hijab the satanic way they have described in certain countries, is also another example of, killing them. You might not be, burying them alive, but I would say you're burying them alive. But, they kill women and they justify that they are doing something against the word of God. God never said cover your head. But they're doing that, and it's because they are like misogynistic and they hate women. That comes from all these wrong traditions that we have, and God is like warning us against that, inshallah.
Yeah, may God guide us away from such misogyny, right? Men and women are equal in the sight of God, especially as believers are concerned. Anything else, if we, like, obviously there are differences, and we must be apparent, like they are apparent, so we just have to acknowledge that. But besides that, to make any biases or bigotry between sexes just based off of what God has given us in terms of plan, I think it's gross.
Let's do something with these bees, Suleiman. So many benefits.
And subhanallah, how they are creating different types of honey, orange honey, clover honey, wildflower, manuka honey. I mean, there is a very pricey type of honey called manuka honey, which is like originating from New Zealand. Yes, it's just absolutely, magnificent. And then, subhanallah, God knows how many benefits there are here that we don't know,
As a funny thing, I remember back in the day seeing a news article where Skittles were like there was a Skittle factory, and they spilt out into public, and the bees made like really funky colored honey out of it because of the sugar.
Like what, colorful honey?
Yeah, it was just like really funky. I'll try to look up the news article. I saw it a couple of years back, and I thought it was kind of silly, but just reminded me off topic. Sorry, guys.
Oh, that's cool.
I have a question about so milk, So we know that there are different types of milk on the market. So we have whole milk, reduced fat and stuff like that, or no fat. What do you think about these things that are basically industrial? Because we know that the milk which is coming out of the body of, cow and sheep or goat, they are the natural type, but then they do lots of stuff to them. And there is, like, for example, milk for lactose intolerant people. So what do you think about it? Would it be like considered changing the creation of God? These different types of
No.
mm,
I mean, that's because you manufacture. God says you manufacture things with your own
mm,
hands.
mm.
So I mean, there's nothing wrong with manufacturing things. I mean, people make cheese.
Yeah,
They have cheese, and then they have cheese
strawberry.
products, which they
Yeah.
mix cheese with other chemicals, and it's still kind of cheesy cheese.
Mhm.
Creamy type. But I mean, that's not a prohibition
Mm.
in
No,
any
no, I
shape or
didn't
form.
mean. No, I didn't mean prohibition. I meant, like, for example, because obviously we
I mean,
know
if you
that.
say changing God's creation, that's a prohibition, right? I mean, you
Oh, okay.
can't change
Okay.
God's creation in that sense,
Mhm.
like
Mhm. Okay.
distort God's creation, right? I mean,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So basically, there is nothing wrong with those types of milk that
No,
they're.
because you can just say then, for example, I can say, well, making candy is changing God's prohibition
Mm,
because
mm. Yeah,
because now previously it was
it's
honey and
not the
now it's
same thing.
candy, or something,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Yeah, mashallah, mashallah. But
Is
obviously,
it was your? Oh, go ahead.
but obviously the original form is better, and we know that. For example, like, if, correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody is, for example, lactose intolerant, that's not something which is natural, because God created us in perfect shape and form. And if somebody is, by whatever reason, lactose intolerant, that is something that, in long run, if they are submitters, it's going to be solved for them, correct?
Well, I mean, to me, that is not a like religious discussion. That is a
Ah,
nutritional discussion.
okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
I mean, it's just a matter of yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it has nothing to do with God in that sense, like religion or our hereafter in any way. Like for
Okay.
example, like there's no sin, or you don't get extra credit if you go for organic, for example, anything like that. Or
Yeah,
it's
correct.
just
Yeah.
it's not a Quranic discussion, anyways.
Mhm.
Um,
But I wanted to share that, actually, I know someone who has been a submitter for like almost 2 and something, 2 years and something. And she used to be like not able to tolerate milk. And I believe it's because, when you're not a submitter, you're worried most of the time, and, the intestine is affected. And like she truly wasn't able to take milk. And but I'm just sharing an experience. I'm not saying that making any law here. But the thing is that after she became a submitter, she can now take 2 glasses of milk per day. Praise be to God. So you see that your body is calm, and by the grace of God, you feel better. And so many of these reactions comes from the soul. In my opinion, that person, that's a real life experience that I've been in touch with. Mashallah.
There is something that the Messenger of the Covenant mentions about these kind of topics, that when someone is a new submitter, I need to search it up, but I remember something like this. He was talking about that for a while they are going to be they will not have difficulties for a while, in the beginning. I need to search that up, but there was something he mentioned in the voice recordings, I believe. maybe as a blessing, that God gives to, if someone comes to submission, it's new. So it's like some kind of a gift maybe from God.
Yeah, mashallah, this person has been receiving so many gifts by God's grace. So many problems have vanished, and also at the same time tested. So we are not saying that they're not getting their test, but God shows them His signs, and to strengthen their belief. And one of them is that you not being able to take milk for your whole life, like 50 something years of life, and then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, like over a couple of months or over a year, you can see a progress, a change, a big change, mashallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
I've been hearing that there's some sort of what is it called? A meeting in Arizona for submitters, a submitters conference coming.
We are not part of that, God willing.
Okay, why do you have that stand or that perspective?
Because we've talked about this, I think, before. Tucson. So I think we discussed certain things like circumcision and perfect happiness, God's kingdom. Huh?
I'm back. I left on accident. What'd you say?
Okay. Yeah, I think we discussed certain topics in the past, like, for example, perfect happiness and God's kingdom, listening to the audios and videos in the messenger, circumcision, certain topics where they have injected their own personal opinions into the religion that we don't ascribe to, against what God says in the Quran and what the messenger has preached. So that is the reason. Feel free to ask other questions if you have regarding that. I mean, I think you. I'm not sure if you had been present in some of those discussions, but we have talked individually about those topics in general, right? Like circumcision being one, and there's, for example, they promoted the idea that. I mean, it's good. I think it's a good question that you asked. Maybe it's a timely. So I didn't have enough sleep, and I'm having trouble finding simple words. That's why sleep is so important. So yeah, so like we talked about circumcision before extensively, right? And so Masoud Tucson published this article about circumcision and legitimizing it as something that was given to Abraham. I mean, and they have promoted it in certain books as well. Like there's one where which was a valid book by Lisa, about supposed to be about Christianity. Anyways, so but forget about the book. I think that's the more confusing part. But the idea that they have an article on their website also to this day that promotes circumcision as something that is given to Abraham and was part of his religion, but they say that submitters don't have to don't if submitters don't do it, they won't be punished because it's not in the Quran, but it's something that's following the religion of Abraham, and they've quoted a bunch of verses, and then but then just to appear more somewhat neutral, they said, but also the other party might say that it's not this or that, some arguments against circumcision, but the only thing they didn't mention, ironically, in that article is that Quran is complete, perfect, and fully detailed, and we should uphold only the Quran as a source of religious guidance and law. It had not been mentioned. And the conclusion is, if you read that article carefully, is that it's given to Abraham, basically, and the verses from the Bible testify to that. And the person who changed this, because it's contradictory in the Bible, was Paul, and Paul was all corrupt, so it doesn't matter if Bible. You can read that article too, and then there's other articles that they published that downplayed the idea of admissions test and God's kingdom versus Satan's kingdom, and they believe that believers continue to be tested until their whole lives, and just after even if they pass their admissions test, they believe there's no such thing as quote unquote admissions test. This whole life is a test, and even if you pass, you just continue to go through adversity, and they think they're all going to die of cancer or some other disability and all this stuff, and that's what we have been seeing really happening. So and then they also discourage people
He's
from
brother Suleiman.
watching videos, and yeah,
Brother,
go ahead.
he's gone. So yeah.
Oh.
Okay, he came back now. He came back. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so brother Khalis, did you miss anything what I said so far? Or do you still want to know more?
I think his network is very low. That's
Yep,
what's happening.
I'm back.
Mm-hmm.
So I pretty much grasped a good portion of what you said. They made some sort of fabricated document supporting something that doesn't have a basis or God doesn't support.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what I grasped. And anyone who does something like that is obviously doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if they're being reminded and they don't care, and they just basically, if you tell them that they're wrong about it, they'll just shun you, basically. So, and ostracize.
And
One of the
these same people who did all these sort of fabrications, they're the people that are in Arizona.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The specific person that I mentioned that originally wrote it, this article specifically about circumcision, for example, died of colon cancer. So he's no longer there, but other people, kind of still look up to him as like their leader, and now they
They
have other leaders that
found
are
the document.
actually worse than him. So yeah. So I mean, it's just been going downhill basically after the messenger, passed away, and it's no longer. It's not even the same masjid that he had established. After he died, after Dr. Khalifa passed away, uh, the son took over the masjid and rented it out as a house or something, and then these people went ahead and then they created their own mosque, and that's what they call Masjid Tucson now, and they have a different non-profit organization, not even the same organization that the messenger created, and it's like a part dog training facility and part mosque, so they alternated between a dog training facility and mosque, but that's not the same as the Masjid Tucson that the messenger had created.
Also about the videos and audios, they don't promote.
They discourage, yeah.
Yes. And it's
yeah, one
interesting
of
that sorry, brother Jafar, they're actually so the people who are there and they come from different countries, they are distributing the same ideas in their homeland, their home country. It's like it's not enough for them to corrupt here. It's like they're like distributing it all over the world.
Yeah, and the thing is, because their name is Masoud Tucson, people look up to them, and they say, "We were with the messenger. We heard what he said," and that's the reason why Messenger of the Covenant said, you guys are either going to the highest of heaven or you're going to go to the lowest pit of hell, because these are the people that were with him. They saw him, were so close to him, and I think I had recently mentioned this in another study also that I went there to talk to these people at one point, hoping to make some dialogue and progress because they had actually banned me from speaking at the conference. Imagine, like, for no reason, no apparent reason, just because they had written this article and I disagreed with it. That's what they started, anyways. So I went to talk to them, and they, I mean, about a separate thing, but they brought up the subject about admissions tests in God's kingdom, right? And wanted to talk about it, even though the verses they were reading that day were not about that, but they wanted to make a point, and so we got in the discussion, and I remember I read literally the transcript of literally what the messenger said, a huge, big portion of the King of Chaos that talks about what exactly the messenger said, his words, And I don't know if some of them knew what that I was reading the messenger's words or not, but when I read them, they were all just giving me looks like I was insane. And they said, "This is." They said we were with Rashad. We know what he said. He says he talked about following the Quran alone. He said this is not what he said. One lady specifically said this is not what he said. He said, I knew Rashad. He worship. He said follow the Quran alone, and those were his word. And then all of them just were throwing verses after verses to try to fight the idea that there's no such thing as admissions test, and bringing different examples from the Quran to try to create doubt and convolute this concept, basically. So just to add like a 2 hour debate with them, and they were all they had like lots and lots of verses lined up, and each one was taking turns one after another.
But then,
Yeah.
Solomon, they have some videos on their
They have
channel.
videos, yes, they have videos, and they also have audios, but just because people have demanded them, I mean, it took them a while. I mean, videos were there from the very beginning,
Okay.
but they didn't. But they don't like promote it, and like they don't like advertise it the way we do. Like, I mean, the way you think that you talk about, like, for example, if you ever go in a Quran study with them, let's say, and you want to reference something that the messenger said, I mean, you're definitely gonna be, told that our source is the Quran, and that we should follow the Quran alone, and we should preach with the Quran alone, and yeah, and so even if you go and you try to find the audios, try to see if you can find any of the audios of any of his studies, and how accessible it would be. You'll see lots of audios, lots of zikr that these people made, by different singers that they have, but you will not find Quranic studies by the Messenger of the Covenant. Yeah.
And sorry, just to confirm on the admissions test, we're not saying that once the admission test is passed, you will not be tested anymore. Are we saying that? We're not saying that, because there would still be situation. Yeah.
So once you have your admissions test, then there's the purification process, right? Once you are tested, and once you're tested and you pass your test, then what is the point of testing? Right? I mean,
but there would be situations that you need to make decisions, right? So there would be situations that you need to make the right choice and understand how things work, so there would still be
those are not
situations.
Yeah, okay, but you can say that, okay, let's say, for example, you go to work and you are in a situation, you could tell the truth and you could lie, you choose to tell the truth. Yeah, I mean, in that sense, you can say every day is a test. In other words, this life is a test, but that's not what we're talking about. We're specifically talking about like admissions test, adversity, people getting cancer and saying it's a blessing, to say like, no such thing as admission test, so they're specifically, when they talk about tests, they're specifically referring to like the idea of tests to the scale of people going to adversity and having admissions tests and stuff like that. Just going back to like
having a miserable life. Okay, I see what you mean.
Having a miserable life. Yeah, and that's what you notice. You go there, you see just misery. I mean, that's my personal experience for the most part. But you don't. I mean, I don't see God's promise, or I don't see, happiness. You could argue that some people look pleasant, they may be smiling, but then they're on wheelchairs and stuff, and there's some of these people are even like homeless or just have very bad conditions, and they think that it's a blessing. That's the part that I mean, it's one thing to be homeless or one thing to be crippled and be on a wheelchair for the rest of your life. But then to say that this is a blessing, is just taking it to a whole other level. The point is that, we want to stay away from, like, I would personally stay away from such influences, because obviously these people go up to the podium and they preach these ideas to others. You know, they celebrate. Uh, like last concerts I was there, they were really trying to get me out of there. But on top of that, like there was a dedicated presentation of four of their members, different women who had just died of cancer, and they were celebrating them together and crying and praising them. And and if you ever go there, for example, and you want to give a presentation and you want to talk about perfect happiness, perfect health, wealth, and happiness, specifically health, uh, in general, like they will attack you. I can guarantee you. And or if you want to go there and play a audio from the messenger or something like that, people will come up to you and at least privately and tell you that this is not right. So yeah, just
Sunni version of
yeah.
submission that they have created for themselves. Sunni version of submission.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, they can be in their misery. That's fine. I mean, every one of us has a choice to be in God's kingdom or in Satan's dominion. Obviously, it seems that they have chosen to be in Satan's dominion. And I think having one idea of circumcision, not being firm on it, is enough. To completely destroy your whole life. As if you remember in one of the videos of Dr. Khalifa, it said that if you believe that God ordered, Nauzubillah, God ordered Abraham to kill his son, then you don't know God, then you don't believe in God, and then as long as you have that idea in your mind, you won't be allowed to go into heaven. So basically, having ideas, and it's absolutely completely mental. I mean, if you remember, I shared that part of the audio 29 that Dr. Khalifa said that this is a new age, this is a new era, that time that people fought with their life and their whole belongings to prove to God that they are on the side of God is gone. It's the time of mental challenges and mental thought. We have to have this mental mental challenge in our mind, that we have to accept things or we have to reject things. That's why we have these Quranic sessions to come up to to purify our thoughts, inshallah. And if we have bad thoughts, if we have wrong thoughts in our mind, that's enough to create problems for you. That's enough to create cancer for you in the long run. And then that will be the result of it. They have chosen to be in the they have actively chosen to be in the dominion of Satan.
Yes, mashallah. Just imagine, like at the time of Prophet Muhammad, or other messengers, probably not the modern era. I mean, they had to go to battlefields and they had to pick a side, to be on the other side with the disbelievers or to be with the believers. But here, everything is mental. If you side with the hypocrites and the disbelievers, and even though you are still among the believers or the true submitters, you are doing a disservice to yourself. You are taking side with them and like feeling for them, or having a like I don't know, feeling sympathy with them. And we are not allowed to be like that. We should be a solid friend of God, inshallah. And we should be following the Quran alone. And the Quran says, obey God and obey the messenger. So when the messenger, by the grace of God, has audios for us, is explaining everything, us going to people and asking their opinion about what the messenger says, in the sense of them not being righteous people and making up stuff or rejecting what the messenger says, is not acceptable. We don't want to have just a society or a community, or to accept everyone to please God, because obviously God doesn't want us to do that. He says, run for your life. Even if they're among our family members, we have to do that. So it's like, we shouldn't be sugarcoating and like hiding, or let's say like supporting the people who are doing things wrong. And I believe what's going on with these communities is that they accept the people with doubts in their hearts. They have let their doubts stay and to turn them into hypocrites. And instead of fighting those doubts by siding with the submitters, the believers, the true submitters, they created their own like cozy community of so-called cozy community of people being together and accepting each other's flaws instead of like pointing out that this is wrong, like this idea is wrong, and let's seek refuge in God and help each other to inshallah get rid of that. They accepted that, they invited those people, they welcomed them. And then as a result we see that that's what's going on there. And when they don't accept in that perfect happiness, I believe it's because I've seen people from that community, or the communities alike, that they actually they don't believe in perfect happiness because they believe if they do so they're going to hurt someone else who is not happy. Like somebody is not happy because they are upholding these like wrong ideas about God, like circumcision, attributing lies about God, and they happen to be their close friend in that community, and they just can't say that the reason you are miserable is because you have this idea, and they just take side with them instead. So they become one of them. May God help us not to be like that. I believe we should be compassionate, we should be kind toward other people who are trying to be submitters. We are also trying to be submitters and inshallah believers, but feeling sympathy towards them instead of pointing out what's wrong is absolutely wrong, and it's going to hurt us in the long run.
Sorry, Sister Shima, I think I missed part of your comment. What is the part about the sympathy? Was there?
Sympathy in the terms of like someone who's been in submission for like 25, 30 years, and they are not getting what God promises them. They have not been like, they're not happy, as you said, they're on wheelchair, they're miserable, and at the same time like feeling really righteous. And they are they feel for them in the sense of accepting what they believe. Like they say, okay, so this is the true submission, like this guy is a good person, but they are just sick. And and then they fall into the trap that the perfect happiness does exist, which is against what God promises in the Quran. So they are going against the Quran by taking side with those people. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, I mean, God, I mean, the thing is, God tells us to force ourselves to be with the believers, right? And so if you are going to go to a congregation where they welcome and encourage these types of people, I mean, this was I mean, there's so much to it, I mean, I didn't want to really get into the nitty gritty, especially because Justin was there and then he left, which I was thinking he might leave when we talk about this. But um, I think I can talk about it now. But also, I mean, there's more things, like for example, Rashad's son, who claims to be a messenger, is also and has other issues, claims to be a messenger, and he is welcome in that congregation. They make him lead prayers and everything. And then you have other people that promote circumcision. Actually, one guy who started yelling at me when I was giving a sermon, literally yelling at me, and walked out of my sermon. I mean, he gives speeches like that over there every year, like without missing any year, regularly. And so these kinds of people are welcome in those congregations, right? And if you want to talk about the truth, most likely you're going to be censored, and you won't be allowed to give a speech next year, for example. There have been many other submitters who were similarly stopped, especially after the last person who was in charge of the congregation died. They became more and more closed in that sense and strict. And so other people also, like, they don't agree with, like, they stop them from giving sermons simply because they don't, because it exposes basically what they believe. Just the same as the traditional Muslims, right? Like for them, why they have a problem with the message, with the truth, with the mathematical miracle, because it exposes all of the fallacies that they have been falsehood that they have been preaching. So in the same manner, I mean, they know that there's things that they're preaching that are wrong, and if it exposes that, then they want to basically shun it this way. And yeah, and so I mean, if you want to go to a congregation where you are surrounded by these fake messengers, hypocrites, that promote all these ideas, they're welcome and they hug them and kiss them, and these kinds of people are welcome. So it encourages these types of people to come, right? So you go to a place where you're surrounded by all these types of people as a result. So what are you going to get? You're going to turn into these same kind of people, because you're going to become what you surround yourself with. God says don't befriend the hypocrites and force yourself to be with the believers. So I mean, I went to a few of the conferences at some point. Before, I used to go to all of them, but then when these issues started coming up, I would go. And initially, I think my mindset was like, okay, well, there has to be a representation of the truth, you know, but they don't allow any kind of representation. I mean, you can go to a disbelieving conference, and you will be able to speak up, right? I mean, I can go to a Christian conference and I can go stand there and give a speech or something, But you go there, this place, and they tell you to leave, or they will have the cops, forcefully remove you or something. These types of threats. Obviously, I mean, for example, I was there at the hotel when I was at the conference. They wanted me to leave, and they couldn't do anything because I was a guest at the hotel. And the hotel said, if you want to go higher security, you can ask. You can remove him, but we don't do that. He's a guest of our hotel, and we can't do anything like that, right? And they didn't want to do that. They didn't want to hire security, but they kept coming and telling me that I should leave. And I said, no. I mean, you should. I mean, you could accommodate me. I want to be part of the conference, but they used the verse where God says, where it literally is the opposite. God says, make room for the believers, right? And when you're asked to get up and move in order to make room for the believers. So they used the verse to say, well, doesn't the Quran say when you're asked to get up and move, you move? So just in other words, get out. So they couldn't force me to leave. But then at the end, when towards the end, they all go to the mosque on the last day, and they have pizza there and have like 3 or 4 hours, spend 3 or 4 hours there. And so they came up to me before that and told me, they said, if you try to come there, they said, we'll call the cops. It's private property and you're not welcome there. So
Brother,
anyways, I wasn't planning on going anyways, but the thing is, you want to go to a place like that where you'll only see these types of people. So um yeah, but you will not be able to go there and have a voice for submission and debate with these people. They're very close-minded.
yeah, they're like the Sunnis that you can't debate with them, you can't talk to them. It's very hard to debate with people that are not, I mean, believing in the same thing that you believe. So, like for example, if you want to debate with a Christian, how do you want to debate with them when they don't believe in Quran? If you want to debate with an atheist, how do you want to debate when they don't believe in God at all? So the thing is that these people, they might say that they are submitters, but actually they are making fallacies out of the things that are very clear cut in the Quran, and it's really hard, and it will give you headache to debate with them. And why would we do that? We have, Alhamdulillah, we have our platform here. We're just putting the information out there. Anybody who is believing in this, they will see and they will believe. MashaAllah, we have like languages, different languages. We have English, we have Turkish, we have Farsi. So if anybody who would believe and would, easily come toward this, and by the grace of God, inshallah, they will attend. And if they don't want, we don't have to go and talk to the people. Just think about it. Like exactly, that's what I wanted to say about, Moses people, mashallah. Yeah, So think about it. Like there was so many miracles in front of the children of Israel. They crossed the sea, the Red Sea, and on the other side, they told Moses they saw a village that the people were just like the inhabitants were worshiping idols. And then they said Moses, will you make one of these idols for us? We want to worship it. And then I mean, at that moment, what was Moses supposed to say? Seriously, I mean, it was just like, didn't you see all the miracles that God showed you? God saved you from the Pharaoh. You forgot all about it altogether right now, and you want to worship. So these are the same people. A messenger came to them, Dr. Rashad Khalifa, very clear, very obvious what he was saying, but people don't want to eat good food. They want to eat garbage. And one of the things that they want to eat is circumcision. They want to believe in it, and they want to eat garbage instead of the good food that is good food for the thought. They want to go into the wrong direction, and they want to absolutely, confuse everybody and then confuse themselves, and they want to create a new religion. May God protect us from such, people, and inshallah protect our sessions from such people, from them coming among us and sit with us, because then they would start to rub on us, if they don't believe in. I mean, interestingly enough, this idea of circumcision is a very good clear-cut question for the people who want to join any sessions, for example, Farsi session. The first thing that Shima and I asked them, okay, do you believe in circumcision? that's the first thing, that's the first thing that we ask. What is your position on circumcision? The person is completely caught off guard. They don't know what to say. Then you will understand whether they are, they believe or they don't believe, or what is their stance.
Well, actually, we just offer them the information that the circumcision is not in the Quran, and then it's you see the reaction. It's just it's out of their control. And then again, you remind them, but if they insist, sometimes it's good to remind. Maybe they might be saved, inshallah. But if they insist on their belief, then it's out of our hand. We can't do anything.
Yes, and it has nothing to do with language. Even if you don't know English, mashallah, we have like a brother in our Farsi study. He's not that dominant on English, but if God wants to guide a person, they will be guided. They will accept it. They might not have known about these topics, and they don't know what is the stance that they should have or anything. But then when you provide them with information, I mean, since their heart is alhamdulillah with God, and they accept the truth, then they accept it. That's it, as simple as that. The people who want to insist, and they want to persist, and they want to just go about it, and they want to make fallacy and so on, well, that's why you would see that there is like a sort of hypocrisy in that, because it's so clear cut. I don't think there's any there should be any sort of discussion about it, because it's very clear cut that it's satanic. It's not in the Quran. We're not going to accept it. End of discussion. Now, if some people want to create a whole round of literature and a scholarly work around why circumcision is part of submission, well, they are barking upon the wrong tree. They're going in the wrong direction. The same as the Sunnis, who wanted to prove that Muhammad, made the moon in half. And go back and search it. I mean, there are some crazy, Arab scholars that they are just like created an institute for themselves and working on this idea, and that they want to prove that, the making the moon in half is an actual thing that happened. And they are spending gazillion dollars on this to prove this. Or even worse than that, why drinking the urine of a camel is a good thing. They have papers on that. I mean, you don't know what to say. These people are crazy. I mean, what are you talking about? Because they want to prove their satanic ideas, okay, based on the fabricated hadith. They go out of their way to make all the possible fallacy that they can about it. Okay, be my guest, go and drink camel's urine. You will be poisoned to death. Go ahead. Now you want to talk about the benefits of camel's urine? So this is the crooked idea. The same goes with these people in Masjid Tucson and with their ideas about
Yeah.
circumcision, anything like
Yeah, I
that.
think
Yeah.
another important thing that I didn't mention, Brother Khalis, is that also there is his son who claims to be a messenger, right? Which I mentioned, and so he believes that he's a treasure of submission, like Joseph, and then he says he has made up a hadith where he says that Rashad said that the Quran should not be given for free, and there always has to be a fee, because if you don't charge for it, the people will not appreciate it. And he says even if you have Qurans available online that cost you $0 to make, like someone has already have an electronic copy out there. It doesn't cost them any money to just leave it there, and someone else can download it. And he says no, there has to be a fee, there has to be a wage. And he says, and then he wants all the Qurans that are available digitally anywhere on the web to be removed, you know, and anybody and only people should go through him or through Masoud Tucson, same thing. And because he's the one who is in contract with them, or whatever their relationship is, so he get his cut. And and he says that they should be removed, and I mean he has threatened me several times to get the free Qurans removed from like iBooks and other places, from the App Store as well, and they got it removed from like Amazon and other places. It was available on Kindle and stuff. And
How I have a question on it though.
uh-huh.
How new or how recent is this information? Because I've recently asked a group the same thing you said. Him claiming to be a messenger, and they said he apparently someone who is familiar with the community. They said he stopped holding that sort of claim.
No. So basically, yeah, basically he started this idea, I believe, more than 20 years ago initially, and he said he was a messenger. I wasn't there when this happened in the beginning, and so since then we were all under the impression that he had apologized, and he said that he was not a messenger and he would not say it again. And then this was like maybe I would say like 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, it came up again when him and I started talking one on one also, and with some other people also that he started talking, and he started telling them privately the same thing, and then if after that he even gave a speech at the conference.
Okay, so Brother Suleiman is disconnected. Inshallah, he will come back. Yeah, and I agree, Brother Jafar, about the idea that none of the messengers of God ask for any wage from anybody, and that's one of the features and one of the characteristics of the messengers of God, that they don't ask for any money from anybody. And even Dr. Khalifa in one of the videos said that I personally make sure the money that goes into the money that comes out of my pocket for all this, is more than the money that goes into my pocket, for example, so obviously they were printing Qurans, and that time electronic version was not available. And then basically he said that I always make sure that the money that goes out of my pocket is more than the money that comes into my pocket, definitely. So basically they're not asking for any wage, but this person obviously asking for wage is non-Quranic. And yeah, he's reserving anybody who does that, they're reserving lowest pits of hell for themselves.
And I believe there is a video that Brother Suleiman called him, and he did a recording on that call. where he actually said that I'm a messenger, and the brother Suleiman actually asked him how you prove that. He said, like, look at the skies and look at the birds and and you will understand that I'm a messenger. So there is evidence.
Yes, I remember that video. Yeah.
And it was not a very old video. Yeah. So can someone tell Brother Suleiman that he was disconnected?
Yeah, I just told him. I sent a message.
In that video, he provided no basis, no reasoning.
Yeah.
He just says, "Just believe me. Just believe in my word." And it's just like, well, just believe your word. What do you mean you're the messenger of God? Show us some proof. Show something. But
and that's what he said. That look at the stars, look at the planets, look at the trees. That's the proof. Yeah. No.
And again, the same people are welcoming him. They don't question him or they don't do anything against it. It's just they welcome him, and
And the verse in Quran that says that who's more wicked than the person who fabricates a lie and attribute it to God. So there's no person more wicked than that to fabricate lies and attribute them to God, and to say that they have been inspired when such no inspiration has been given to them. To say that they are messenger of God when no such inspiration, no such commandment, no such order from God has come for them. To be the messenger of God. And these people are like that. May God help us to stay on the right path and stay away from these people. And God protect us from such people, such hypocrites. Okay, I sent a message, but Khalis wants to say something.
There's always, three sides to a story. And I get your guys' side of the story. And, if anything, it's what you guys have come to understand and collected from the years. Me being a new submitter and getting like this invitation, something in me, there's like a percentage like, wow, it could still be, beautiful, but then I still have to leverage the information you guys are giving me. Once, if I'm even thinking about traveling to Arizona to go meet quote-unquote submitters, or if I come to find out that they're hypocrites. So there's still that percentage of me that's like still interested, because it's like, well, I kind of want to check this off my bucket list in my life to pick up some extra credit.
The first caution for 2 minutes.
I have those thoughts, but that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Brother Khalis, your voice was not quite clear. Could you please say one more time? I didn't get much of what you said.
Well, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, I'll try to just summarize it. There's still like a percentage in me that, because there's three sides to a story, and I'm getting your guys' perspective and, what you guys have collected over the, your years of being submitters and doing your in detail research on these people. But there's a percentage in me that still like wants to like check off my bucket list, like, oh, go to a submitters, community to be around brothers and sisters, to worship God alone. But I also have to keep in mind, based on what you guys are telling me, that these people very well may not be your brothers or sister, because the things that they uphold and they fabricate and say is correct.
Yes. Not everybody who comes along. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. I just want to say that you're at a point where you might be very impressionable, and so just take your time first, and I would like read the Quran, from cover to cover and understand like all the concepts about like what God says, because these people are not easy to deal with and very deceptive, so they can confuse you very easily, like and you will be perplexed. And so I would say if you ever did decide to see them, because out of curiosity, I understand, and you want to see for yourself. So just go at a time where you feel that you have a good handle on what God has explained to us in the Quran. At least the concepts that we have just talked about, right? Unfortunately, the problem is specifically with these people is that they're not straightforward, right? Because God says in the Quran also, that the hypocrites, They come to you, they say they believe with their mouths, but in their hearts they don't believe. So even if you say, even if you ask them, like, do you believe in perfect health? Say, yes, we believe in perfect health. If you ask them, do you believe that Rashad do you believe insurance is prohibited? Yes, we believe insurance is prohibited, but there's always a fine print, like when they say, for example, insurance is prohibited, you say, oh yeah, but it's only life insurance, for example, and so similarly, if you ask them, like, do you have anything against the audios and videos? They'll say, no, no, audios and videos are a blessing. And you'll be surprised, like, wow, like all these people that told me all these things were lies, that these don't believe that. But but when you talk to them, you spend enough time with them, you understand that they don't want the audios and videos. They say they're blessing because they have no way to argue against it, but then they don't they don't know anything about the audios. They have no knowledge because they don't listen to them, and a lot of the concepts they don't believe in, like insurance, when he talks about all forms of insurance and having no compromise in insurance, even a little bit. They don't believe that. So it becomes obvious to you, like, obviously, because they know that if they say these things out point blank to you, they'll be exposed, and they don't want to be exposed. So it is really, really like a frustrating process when a lot of these things, the recent things like circumcision, all these things were unfolding. For me, it was a very frustrating process for people. But I had to be patient for people to see things for themselves. Um, uh, but the thing is that I would just say that don't take anything for its face value. Like if they tell you that no, we believe this or we believe that, anybody can say anything, but the proof is in the pudding. You have to sit there and observe and understand and get to the bottom of what they really believe if you want to know the truth. It's like, for example, God says verify everything, right? And there's a murder happened in the neighborhood, and you say you have to verify and investigate, and you go and you ask the killer, like, did you kill this person? What is he going to say? I did? No, he's going to say, no, I didn't. And then you say, oh, I verified it. I asked the killer and they said, no, we didn't kill anybody. So it's like that. So it's not that straightforward and easy. But inshallah, God willing, with God's guidance, anybody should be able to, see the truth.
Yes, sometimes it's not even necessary to do that. You can look at the result of what is happening to the people who are upholding such ideas. Like, for example, Abdullah Eric, getting colon cancer. Cancer is out of the question. Or now somebody comes and say, oh, no, we are doing everything right. But, cancer happened, just out of sheer coincidence. Well, that's wrong, So the consequence that is happening to these people, the people who are going there and getting bad results, shows that they're holding the wrong thoughts. Okay, alhamdulillah, if we were doing something wrong, if we were holding the wrong result, the wrong ideas, okay, then we would have had so many troubles and problems. Well, alhamdulillah, I'm talking about myself, okay, as a new submitter for 2 years and something, okay. I personally see, alhamdulillah, I see constant blessing and constant improvement every day in my life and my wife's life, okay, compared to the mess that it was before the submission. So if it was wrong, this shouldn't have happened. And you see the ideas, you see the information, you test them, you look at them, you think about them, you reflect upon them, you ponder on them, and then you get to your own results. If those people who are saying that, who are claiming to tell the truth, were actually telling the truth, then they would have had good results. But it's not the case. They don't show any good results. Okay, and it's even easier than going and trying to ask the murderer whether they killed or not. Because that would be a very painstaking task. I would take Brother Suleiman's word for what he's saying, because I believe that he's telling the truth, and you look at somebody else's life, you see what is the result in it. You see happiness, you see blessing, you see prosperity. So then you would see that, okay, alhamdulillah, that is the promise of God, and the promise of God is the truth. If that was not the case, then Brother Suleiman would have been the most miserable among us. Then I'm sure by one way or another we would have understood and we would have left, or Brother Jafar for that matter, or Sister Mona, or Sister Hoda, or you, Brother Khales, or Brother Justin, So So that's the point. But again, God has given us a brain, God has given us eyes and ears, and we're responsible for using them. But we are responsible for being logical and thinking about what is right, what is wrong. And if there's something that you think, those people are doing that we are not doing in the sense of being right, you're more than welcome to check it. But be very careful, brother. Nobody would tell you that. We have an expression in Farsi that says that no grocer will say that their yogurt is bad. They will give you the yogurt and they will say that, oh, this is the best yogurt in the market, but then you take it home and you see that it's not good. All right. So, and as Brother Suleiman said, that they're going to confuse you, they're going to twist you, they're going to twist their words, and then they're going to play with you. If you tell them, guys, you're doing it wrong. No, we are doing the things wrong. No, Suleiman is doing things wrong. So Suleiman is the extremist. That group, that submission, that God Alone TV group is the extremist. No, we are the good ones, So that's my take on it, based on the 2 years and something that I have been in submission. I have thought about these things a lot, mashallah.
Mashallah. And we don't have much time. As Masoud said and Brother Suleiman said, it's your choice to go and try, but we should be very appreciative and think if we are missing something here, and what is that thing that we are missing here. Are you really missing something? Are you not getting a great understanding of the Quran? And if they have anything to offer, and something that we should be very careful is that they are very welcoming and kind. I, by God's grace, never been among them, but we were contacted by some of them. I personally have a colleague who is affiliated with those groups, and you see that they're very welcoming. They come to you from the right side. They say that we remain well, and they over the time, if you stay with them, they will distort the ideas in your head, and eventually you wouldn't even be able to recognize yourself as a submitter. It's like it's a very challenging situation, because they are welcoming. You might be sometimes you might be treated harshly here. I would say, in the sense of this group is very mashallah, very serious about the word of God, and you might not like some of the reactions that that over time you will see, oh, okay, it was right, I wasn't right, and when you kill your ego, but they are very welcoming. They accept, even if you are saying something wrong or I'm saying something wrong, they welcome that. They don't question something, and we are very responsible for who we are associating with. So if you're done with this topic, I know we are over time, but I have a actually question. It's not off topic; it's still on the one of the topics that was discussed today about admission tests. And Sister Mona is not here, but maybe we can convey this message to her later. But I don't think making decisions in life is considered at admission tests, because admission tests, as the messenger described, are sudden things that happen when you are obeying God, and they want to make you astray, in the sense of you start complaining, you start doubting God, and stop believing, because they are sudden, they are harsh. And we have experienced that. We are early in our submission, and things happened out of the blue, but then we were given signs by God, mashallah. And it's common among submitters that you see number 19 coming up, and it gives you peace that this is okay, it's going to be okay. And God provides for you even more than what you lost in that process. So it's something that's sudden, and it's not like decision making in life, because I believe when you persevere and you stay in those tests and God helps you, you're in God's hand the whole time. These are not my words. These are the words of the messenger. God provides for you in the sense of giving you even more than what you lost. And decision making in life after you pass your submission test is like a piece of cake, because you know that God is making all the decisions, and you are just making your decision based on God's teaching in the Quran. And you tune your life based on that. So that's my understanding, that decision making is not an admission test or any sort of test. It's just a natural routine way of
Mm-hmm.
living.
The, yeah,
Yeah.
because admissions test is to test if we worship God alone under all circumstances.
Yes.
Once
Hmm.
that's been accomplished, there's no reason to test you. Then God says you'll have perfect
Exactly.
happiness. You know, but
Yeah.
then it's not a test. Then it's just you getting your credits for your hereafter. You're obviously, if you're a proven worshiper of God alone, you're not gonna lie. You're not gonna cheat. You
Hmm.
know, and if you did, you're gonna pay the price until you stop. You
Yeah.
know.
That would be
So,
peace.
but that's not a yeah, but that's not a test. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mashallah.
So I mean, in that sense, really, I mean, this life is a test in that sense that you see people that they have to, we know where they stand and stuff, but once you pass the admissions test, there's no reason to be tested. You're
Yes.
already done to the tests,
It's like
right?
someone graduates and then you
Yeah.
keep asking
Mm-hmm.
them to come back
Yeah.
for more tests.
Yeah.
And that
Mm-hmm.
graduation is defined by each
Mm-hmm.
person. It's like
Yeah.
you feel the happiness. You can
Mm-hmm.
tell that there is a
Mm-hmm.
sharp contrast between what you were,
Mm-hmm.
and you're hoping that it gets better and better, so you strive more, inshallah, so it gets better and better. But it's like that's my understanding on admission test. If I want to describe that, the admission tests are, I would say they're harsh, but they're also amazing when you see that God rewards you after you pass that test. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's also, I wanted to ask another question. I saw another comment that I believe nobody is born with the, like, God's will. God allows that, but it's not God's will that somebody is born with the disability of not taking milk, or being hurt by milk or anything like that. It's like maybe the parents did something wrong that the child was born like that. It's like, that's my understanding, that saying that someone is not able to drink milk, but they can enjoy all the other blessings and provisions, doesn't sound logical to me. So
So,
I don't know
could I
what you
say
think.
something on that?
Yes. Hmm.
So, um, I don't want to go too deep in it, but the first question that pops up in my mind is like, what do you think about generation? It's like family generational diseases or some sort
Hmm.
of transit, like transfer.
Yeah.
Couldn't that be
Yeah. Can
similar?
I comment on that? I was born with a genetic problem, and it was really harsh on me. I had a very rough time. And it was, I wouldn't say, before submission, I would really be angry at my parents, because it comes from the mother's side to have that problem. My mom had it, my grandma had it. I don't know about my grandma. But the thing is that they call it genetic disorders. But the thing is that after submission, I realized that it has to do with the way you're thinking. It has to do with the stress and anxiety that is carried out over to you from generation by generation. I resemble in terms of behavior to my mom, and also she comes, like, get it from her mom. So I would say it's like, let me just put it this way, that it's like the some traits, behavioral traits, being carried to you by your gene companion and their parents, that we know our gene companions are the children of our parents companions, and then their parents companions. So they distort our bodies through the way they put some ideas in us, and we accept that. When your whole life is stressed out as a woman, and there's like this idea that women are behaving in a certain behavior during the days of the month. But I found that to be absolute nonsense. But I used to believe that. So these are the things that are put as general rules out there. If we as submitters, I have been healed. That's why I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
that you can get
Mashallah.
healed after submission,
Mm-hmm.
mashallah. And that's not a
Yeah,
myth.
mashallah.
That's a fact. Yes.
Yeah, the thing is, the messenger also has talked about this specifically relating to diseases and stuff. We know that God controls every single atom in our bodies, right? Every chemical reaction, every decision that our body takes, and he says God's angels are the best surgeons, so he has given them powers that they can go do anything inside the body, like, and Satan has been given similar powers, right? Which is how he explains, like, he messed up the baby in Rabbi Krishner's wife's belly by giving his son the progeria disease, right? So all of these things are factors are controlled by God, and if you trust in God, I mean, it's all in His control. I mean, He can cure anything, whether it's genetic or environmental or whatnot, so circumstantial. So um, God promises perfect health, and I mean, the messenger of the covenant, when he talks about perfect health, I mean, he says, like, you will not have any headaches. He says, even says you'll forget what headaches are, right? So he says no problems, no health problems whatsoever. So
Yes,
yeah,
mashallah. Yeah, we shouldn't fall into those like ideas of
yeah,
genetic. If there is
mm-hmm,
medication that you need to take medication, I might still have
mm-hmm,
like one tiny. Praying to God that I get rid of that tiny medication, and inshallah it will happen. But the thing is that it works by God's will. Inshallah it works by God's will. We are not saying don't take your medication, don't go to the doctor or anything like that. But the fact is that you will see improvement. And I don't have a child, but if I had a child, I'm sure that if I were a good submitter, someone, who God is pleased with, inshallah, that child wouldn't be, I'm not planning on having a child, but the thing is that child would not be having that, genetic, so-called genetic disorder that I was indoctrinated with, since I was a little girl, that you have this problem. And, while I see it going away, mashallah.
MashaAllah, it was a very good session. 2 hours and 46 minutes. I think we broke the record.
oh really? I thought that this would be a smaller study than usual, but mashallah. Praise be to God. Yeah, I think we should probably have this, topic discussed a little bit more about the tests. I also would like to hear Mona's point of view on what she's talking about tests in general.
Mhm. Inshallah.
So
Yes.
yeah, and
Inshallah, next session, probably on Tuesday or next
mhm,
Saturday, we can talk
yeah,
about it. Inshallah. Yeah.
inshallah.
MashaAllah.
All right, so thank you, Brother Masood, for leading the study
MashaAllah.
and for streaming. God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
God bless you. Assalamu alaikum.